They say we should have known better than to fall so deep down into this rabbit hole we found. And I was thinking.
Hi, this is Nikolai, and you're listening to my dad, Rafal, co-host James Jardine, and featuring Mr. Jim Tiller on the one and only Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Plug in, listen up, and enjoy.
Deep into this pool of regrettable situations. Pitch black, think back to the last time that we were happy.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome down the Security Rabbit Hole to another edition of the Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. This is Ralph. That over there. I can't. I always screw this up. I don't know why my brain wants to go left versus right. Yeah, it's that guy. That guy. That's my buddy Tim. It's just us today, and we're gonna have a really cool, I think, upfront but very boring conversation that needs to be had. I just said I don't want to be boring, but you should be boring. This field needs a little bit more boring right now because if we keep going at the speed we're going, we're all going to be 80 in about 35 minutes. Anyway. Guys, this is like episode 7,500,99999. No, this is 711, and we're fortunate enough to have you guys listening along. You know, we're consistently getting about 1,000 downloads per episode. That's grows and ebbs over time. I appreciate you all for doing so. I don't know if you know this, we have a YouTube channel. I'd love for you guys to check that out. I don't do a lot of editing, so if you want me to edit some of these and make them flashy and, you know, like the kids do with the emojis and stuff like that, let me know. If you just want to watch us talk, that's okay too. I took a survey at one point. Some people said some episodes they'll watch the video, some watch the audio or listen to the audio, some do both. So just trying to grow the channel, get some more content out there in a way that you want to listen to it. All right, let's get into the content. Speaking of which, my good friend, Mr. Tim Chase. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, buddy. Glad to be here.
It has, you pointed out, it's been 4 years since we had breakfast together. That is a long damn time.
Especially in security these days. I don't think AI, nobody knew what ChatGPT was 4 years ago, did they? I don't know.
Maybe, but it sure wasn't as widespread. All right, so tell the good boys and girls who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I work for Orca Security. I'm a field CISO there. I come from running security programs. Some of the large organizations started AppSec at some organizations that never had AppSec, cloud security back when cloud was just beginning. So I think I've kind of always been on that forefront of the bleeding edge. So hopefully AI will be my last one. I don't know that I want to stick around for the next one. AI might put me in the grave, like you said. Yeah, I don't know what's next. Maybe it's AI combined with, quantum computing, and then we're all just going to die. So
I don't know that we make it past AI. Oddly enough, you and I first met. I think you were at Nielsen running AppSec.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yeah, I started it there. They didn't have any AppSec when I started, so I brought Fortify there, which is where you were working at the time.
Yeah,
I remember. Right?
Yeah. You know what's funny though? I built the first AppSec program at GE Power, then GE Energy. I don't know what it is now, but like in 2001, 2002, and I thought, man, are we behind? How could we be this far behind? And then, like, over the last 25 years, I keep coming up on companies like, oh, we're building our AppSec program. I'm going, what? I'm sorry.
I know. They're still doing that. They're still running. I still run into it with cloud security. It's like, I started a cloud security program in the mid, 2010s or whatever, 2012, 2013. Yeah. And people are still like, yeah, we're starting our cloud security program. Where do we start? And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. It's very interesting because there are leaders, there are laggards, and then there's the 98% in between. I find nowadays that and I'll have you validate this for me because my experience is limited, but as let's say as technology gets more complicated, as we add things to the stack, it's harder and harder and harder to keep up. So everybody just sort of does the least they can, that they have to. The most they can or the least they have to, whichever one comes first, to figure out how do we do something so that we can show progress without having to spend the full spend. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to kind of put it into time machine mode here, like go back to when we were at Fortify, right? Those were the days of sending the PDFs over the wall, and like before you used Jira a lot and everything like that. So even back then, people were busy. They were doing the conversion to Agile. They were trying to figure out, what do we fix? We can't fix all the criticals and highs because we got to go and look through the false positives. So that's been a problem then, back, in 2010 or whenever the heck it was that we were there. And it's even more so now because we've seen cloud and we've seen AI. So things haven't. I'm not a dire kind of guy, so don't put me in that box. But like things haven't gotten better because we just kept adding more and more technologies without completely having the processes in place to secure the first ones that we were working on.
I think it was Hoff that said this, and hopefully I'm attributing it to the right person. But this was like ages ago at a sector. He kept saying, I said, hey, do you think things are getting better? And he said, yes, but only as much as for each new thing we solve, 3 new things show up that we need to go solve next. So the pile, technically, like we're getting through things, but the pile just grows. On the to-do pile keeps growing. So like being married, you just keep getting like the honey-do list gets longer and longer. It's never ever done. It's like being a parent actually too. So there's a lot of things that we can liken this to. But what's the thing you're seeing right now in the field? You field CISO that's spend a lot of time with customers. What are you seeing?
I think the number one thing that I still see a lot is prioritization being an issue. And this is where you're getting to like the most boring, show that you've done. But like when I go into a customer, whether they're doing a POV, whether they're an existing customer, it doesn't really matter. Like they're struggling with kind of the alert overload. And I'll say that's probably even outside of the security team, right? It's like we as security people, sometimes, depending on your organization, we're good at throwing things across the wall to the DevOps, the engineers, to the cloud team, whatever it happens to be. And everybody seems to be just drowning in alerts and you don't know what to fix first, right? And the problem becomes that when you live in that state, that's when like the really important things that you should be focusing on, they get mixed in with all of the ones that maybe aren't as important because they're not externally facing. They're not actually exploitable, right? Yeah. So you'll have you just have a bunch of alerts that are kind of combined together. And then you're reliant on your SOC team or your engineering team or whomever to go through and be able to kind of search through to determine which ones they need to fix first. And that's the biggest thing I think that we're still dealing with. And part of that problem is because security tools tend to live in like a silo, right? So whether it's your vulnerability management tools, your workload security tools, your cloud tools, your AppSec tools, they're all tools that kind of live in this silo and then they don't talk to each other, right? So even though they are very important, right? Like your vulnerability management tool is directly correlated to your images that you're running, right? Like, but they don't the image security tools and the vuln tools don't necessarily talk to each other. We've tried to solve this, in the past, I think by maybe, I think unified vulnerability management is kind of the newest thing that people are doing that are out there where you throw everything into one. I think the original thought behind AI was that we were going to do these security data lakes. AI was going to go through the security data lake and it was going to be a good combination. And I'm not sure security data lake is actually a thing anymore. Maybe it is. So I think that's the biggest problem that I still see today is just a lot of security leaders trying to figure out like what to fix next, what's the highest priority, and to make sense across all of their tool stack.
So a couple of things with that. Number one, as you talk about having difficulty prioritizing, right, there's an entire cabinet full of technologies that's supposed to fix that, not the least of which is AI. However, adding to that stack, and I feel like this is one of those like remember the cartoons we used to watch, Wile E. Coyote as a kid, right? Mm-hmm. He'd blow up some rock and he'd be like, oh crap, look up as it's coming down, grab a tiny little parasol and be like, crunch. Yeah. So like we were just told what, 3 months ago, the vulnpocalypse via Mythos is coming and it's going to crush everybody and there'll be tens of thousands of vulnerabilities and everything and they'll be able to, so there's that. Right. And pushing up against that is something else that's interesting to me prioritization was a thing when I was a security engineer going back, good God, a million years, right? you would scan the network back when we did Nmap and Nessus, and you'd find 10,000 new vulnerabilities. Be like, okay, so 10,000 plus the 7 million, 10,000, 7 million, and try it again next month. Like, have you found people are, this is a part two to this question, but have you found companies are approaching prioritization right? Or are we just all holding our breath hoping that the next AI tool does it for us?
I think they're trying. Like I think they know they need to, but I don't think all of them have learned how to yet, because so many of our security tools don't talk together to give them the ability to do it, right? Like I said, when you're looking at your typical, I'm not going to throw any vendors under the bus here. So like, I'll just say vulnerability management tools, right?
Yeah.
The vulnerability management tools will tell you this is a critical CVE, right? Just say it's rated a 9 or whatever. But it might tell you that it's externally facing, but does it tell you that it's exploitable, connected to PII? Like all of these things that you need to truly do the analysis. So I think plenty of them are stuck using these security tools that do a really good job at their function, but they don't talk to each other. So I think they're trying. It's not for lack of that. I do think that, I don't know if this was kind of a part two of that one, but I do think there's a lot of folks that think that AI is going to solve this problem. And this was something I'd be curious your opinion about. Like, the problem is if you don't have the full context, right? If you don't have a solution, if you don't have a way to be able to give you the full context behind a vulnerability, and by full context, just to be clear, I'm thinking of things like, does this live accessible to the outside world? What roles are connected to the workload that has hosts of vulnerability? What type of data is it connected to? Like all of the things that can raise or lower a risk level, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have all of that, what do you think is going to happen when you put it in the hands of AI? I was talking with someone this morning, and I was like, if I go to my AI tool and I say, write me a presentation that talks about vulnerabilities, it'll do it. But it's not going to have all of the context, and it may or may not be what you want, may or may not be correct. But if you go in there and you say, write me a presentation about vulnerabilities that really talks about what a CVE is, what is exploitability, how does AI impact the vulnerability, and you give it all this context, then your output's going to be better. And that's the same thing with AI solving their issues, right? The more context you give it on the issues it has to solve, the more accurate it's going to be.
I'm going to take you into that conversation to CVE, CWE, CVSS nightmare in a minute. But you're right. I think the context part, and it's important to say what we mean by that. I think knowing, and I don't mean this to sound pedantic, but when you're in the SOC and you're in SecOps and you get an alert off of a system, who that goes to. That goes to a triage, somebody that does triage, an analyst. When you find a unpatched Cisco fabric switch out there, where do you go? Do you go to network engineering? Do you go to network ops? Does it belong to a particular part of your business? Is it like that we had back in the day, where that's actually a co-located device from a partner inside your network that they manage, that you oversee by policy, and so you have to go tell them to do something which you can then validate, but you can't touch directly. There's a lot happening there.
There's a lot.
I think the whole prioritization thing, the conversation with Arsenic and that series of how do we score things, notwithstanding, because again, I think that is a fundamentally horribly broken thing.
Agreed.
That no matter how many paths you take, you always end up back at, well, this is all unique to my environment, my circumstance in that moment, right? And I don't know how to solve that. I just don't, because that's like a how safe are you in this neighborhood? How safe are you? Well, where am I? What am I doing? Who's around me? What's the circumstance? What day of the week is it? What am I wearing? Are there lions about to eat me? Are they hungry? There's so many variables. The calculus can get crazy complex. But the part that really, I think that's where we're going, right? Is you say boring, but this is one of those things that's not solved.
Yeah.
We've been sitting on this for 30 years, probably plus, and this is not solved. Meanwhile, we keep releasing more really cool tech that answers all sorts of other questions on the periphery, but this is not a solved problem. And I'm concerned because so much of cyber hinges on this at least being addressed reasonably.
It does, and it's not a solved problem. And I think the reason that it's more important today than maybe it was even 5 years ago is just the rapid pace, right? Like, I mean, we were around in the network security days, like when you were talking about running Nessus and Wireshark, what all the things that we used to run.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But then when you went to the cloud, all of a sudden, like your real estate multiplied. Well, in today's world, your real estate's multiplying by multiplying by multiplying, right? I think people are saying, like, in an AI world, like the difference in models and the difference in what you can do is not just a version .1. It's like a version 5 in between, right? You're going up so properly. So I think that's why it's proven to be more important. And I think that's why when you're looking at how to run your security program, you need to find that tooling that can help you in this, right? That because the CVSS by itself, if you're just looking at that and that's how you're prioritizing, like you're going to be broken, you're going to be overwhelmed, and your teams are going to hate you, right? Yeah. So you need to find a way to take all of this data and really risk score it based on a bunch of other factors, like I've already mentioned, right? There should be 8 or 9 different pieces from where you take all of this data from your cloud control plane, your container security, maybe your agentless scanning, like all of these things together that can provide you more information about it that can help you actually score it, right? To say, this is one of the most important ones that you should fix because of all these risk factors. And I think, like it or not, that's where like this whole ASM attack path sort of scenarios really come up these days, right? It's like, well, let's find you these things that have the worst attack path. That's going to have the like, if you get breached, like this is going to be a big one because of X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And flip side of that, what's the one thing that I can fix that will really reduce my risk? Like finding ways to do that is important. The other thing, just to kind of to your other point, and I'll slight shout out to I guess Dr. Eric Cole. I know, I've been seeing that a lot these days, but he was one of my first professors back in the day of when I was learning security, right? And like the thing that you took away from that, 20 years later is the fact that if you don't have inventory right, like nothing else matters. Like all of these things that we're talking about with vulnerability management, with being able to prioritize, like if you don't understand what you have across all of your environment, then you're just kind of you're behind, right? You're kind of starting from behind.
But here's the crazy part though. Like who has inventory correct? Nobody. Literally nobody has inventory correct. Nobody knows what they have. Nobody understands what's running around their network. I mean, I spend literally right now, I spend time in the day job watching people stare at our consoles as we analyze packets and show them an entire wealth of network information. They're like, oh yeah, that's not that can't be mine. Well, what it is, it's on your network. It's talking to this other thing. They're like, well, I don't recognize that. Like, that's cute. It is on your network though, right? And you uncover things, a device somebody plugged in, a laptop somebody brought to work, a test system some group you didn't know existed is POCing, and it's some I don't know, elevator maintenance program, some piece of hardware that allows you to schedule, deliver, whatever, like all these
it's never perfect, right?
Types of things, right? And there's so much of it. And I remember I used to tell the story, and it's still relevant. When I was with the HP, I'm working for one of my co-hosts, Jim Tiller. We had a customer that had just separated from a parent company. They had just separated from General Motors, and like we met him on day one. We're like, okay, you're the CIO. What do you need help with? I have security expertise. I have a whole big team here. What can we help you with? And he goes, I have one help desk person. Like, oh, okay. He's like, I had an assessment done, before we separated, of all the things that we have in our organization. Here's that report. And he sends me this huge big 4 report. It's like, 900 pages, and I'm flipping through it, and I find like the summary pages and all that, and I'm going, okay, so there are only 220 devices on your network. Yeah, it's all the employees we have that have laptops right now. I'm like, that's an interesting choice of words. It's like, by the way, on our way to this conference room, we passed a literal shop floor, and it's got like hundreds of machines with Ethernet cables. Thinking, oh no, we didn't have them do that because that's out of scope. I'm like, oh, that's adorable.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah.
You know who doesn't care about out of scope?
The attacker who's trying to find his way in and find that one LAN plug that's not protected.
That's where I'm going, right? Hey, that thing hasn't been patched in 9 years. I'm starting right there. But that kind of thing just proves to me that in 94, in most companies, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, most companies had a better handle of what's on their infrastructure than they do today.
Yeah,
and it was a mess back then.
Yeah, but today, cloud is supposed to have solved everything. You know, that's funny, I know. But like you said, it's just...
I'm waiting for the punchline, Tim.
I know. And AI is going to solve all the problems that cloud created, right? But I think it's all a matter of velocity, right? And that's why it's messier today than it was back then, especially when it comes to inventory.
And yeah, you're right. So the velocity doesn't help. But we were also promised like a whole bunch of things. Like there would be no, you couldn't plug in a device that didn't conform to your network policy or your security policy. You'll never have it
until it's not configured. It works until it's not configured. Like that was how I got hit. Like one of the last pen tests that I did when I was a CISO, that was how we got hit. And that's how that's how the pen testers got in, was because they walked into the office. They, kind of slid in like they do without a badge, found a network port, plugged it in. And I was like, what do you mean you just plugged it in? Like I had those protected. Turns out nobody configured it. The device was there to lock down the ports, but nobody ever actually configured it, right? So, fair enough.
So this takes me to another part of this conversation where how much technology do you see this is a pet peeve of mine, that's bought, unboxed, installed, and never touched, like never fully configured? Because I'm thinking of like seriously starting an entire podcast series outside of this one, like just a segue into speaking directly to vendors that talks about like, if you sell something, but you don't fully get it implemented, don't expect your customers to come back and renew or really be happy with what you sold them.
You're right. Like that's one of the things that I'm actually working on right now is like automating the collection of don't ask me how I'm going to automate it. That doesn't matter. But automating the collection, automating the collection, like when you go into a customer, like what's their utilization? Are they using it? How often are they logging in? Because that's important. And the other thing that's important, not just logging in and using it, but like what is their maturity level of it, right? Like if they're just there and they're logging in and they're doing, the job, that's cool. But are they adding more accounts? Are they utilizing more modules, right? Like if you take a look at kind of what we do, that's cool. They're using it for CSPM, but are they using it for container security yet? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like making sure you can understand that they're getting the usage out of it because the usage is increasing. It drives me nuts when, and I worked very hard for this not to happen at any place I've ever been. Somebody purchases our software and they don't hear from us again for a year. And then when I go back, they're just like, well, yeah, we had QBRs and, we talked to this one guy who was using it. I mean, it seemed like it was okay, right? Like, and so you're exactly right. Like the job of a software vendor.
You're pushing my button. That's the thing right there.
The job of a software vendor is not just to have QBRs, but to make sure that like they're getting the usage out of it, to make sure that the usage is increasing, because that's always what you want to see, whether it's more users, more workloads monitored, more modules being utilized, and help them do it. That's the other thing that I'll say is like, as whether it's in my Orca hat, whether it's in my advisory hat, whatever it happens to be, like let's come up with a maturity model and a plan of like, this is where we want to be in the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next year, so that you can be like, this is where you were day one. And this is where you're at, day 365.
Yeah. I literally this is, it's kind of funny. We didn't plan this, but you just outlined the last two years and change of my life. Like that's what I've spent doing is building out what does good, better, best look like? What did you actually buy? Like, what is the full capability that you've bought? How much of it are you utilizing? How much value are you leaving on the table? And how do we get to that next step? How do we get you to better? What is better defined as? Because I tell you what, as a vendor, since we're both vendors, my nightmare scenario is Acme Widget Corporation buys $10 million of our widget, right? Whatever you're selling, doesn't matter. They go off and like, oh, we don't need ProServe. We're just going to do our own thing. We'll be great. We'll be happy. They get on your QBR, or somebody gets on your quarterly calls to tell you like, oh, you have no open tickets. Everything's great. It's a 5-minute call. Nobody ever has any problems. You go to renew on a 3-year contract, 1-year contract, whatever. They're like, yeah, it just doesn't work. We're not renewing. You're like, wait, what? What do you mean it doesn't work? You're not renewing? Like, well, because we don't know what this does anymore. Like, hold on a second. We sold it to you 3 years ago to solve this problem and more, but you had this problem. Like, yeah, I don't have that problem. You go talk to somebody else. They're like, wait a minute. Nobody that we sold this to that had that problem exists there anymore. They've all left. They've all been promoted, left the company, whatever. By the way, you don't have that problem because we're keeping that problem from popping up. But that person's like, so that means I don't have that problem, right? Like, right? Because they weren't there when the pain started.
They didn't feel the pain.
You've solved it. There's been no pain. They're like, ergo, I don't know what you do for me. And more importantly, if you don't actually have a way to articulate what the value of the thing that you've bought is, the thing that you've implemented is, by the way, we don't just do this one tiny thing that you're talking about. We help you with this thing, and this team uses us, and that investigation team, and that management team, and that triage team, and that team over there, and this team, and this risk team. You're like, oh, so okay. So this is embedded in the organization. We're pushing this box to its limits, the software to its limits. Okay, fine. That makes sense. But if you can't tell that story, if you can't show those metrics, if you can't have that concrete conversation, 86.
Well, we'll get double boring here with a little bit of sales stuff, right? Like that's the thing that if you don't have a problem, you're not going to stay. There's not going to be a sale. You have to be able to articulate the problem, but also who's your champion, right? There always has to be someone who sees the value, who that when renewal comes up, they're like, look, this company is important because we used to have this problem. We don't now. Like both of those things are important. Otherwise the deal goes away, right? Like, and I think that's one of the things that I try and do as a field CISO is make sure like I can articulate that. I'm connected to that person inside the organization to have that relationship, right? Because relationships are super important and you don't want it to come up just when it's renewal time. You want to have that relationship be constant. And so those two points are just super important from a vendor selling relationship.
Yeah. And it's no secret that a good partner will help you get the most out of the thing you bought.
Yeah.
And a great partner will make sure you keep getting the most out of the thing that you bought. Because there's some, that's what, but I got to tell you that when the world went to SaaS, subscription-based services, right? That was the whole promise. We're always going to have to earn that business month to month, year to year, quarter to quarter. It's always going to be continuous earning your business. And then we just locked it up in 3 and 5 year contracts and we're like walked away. We're like, we'll get back to you in 3 years. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
what?
Yeah.
We broke it.
That's tricky. We broke it, right? Because we'll give you a 20% discount to lock it up for 3 years, but then it just kind of goes on autopilot. Not every company, but like you worry that after.
It's so hard not to go to autopilot, though. It is because the customer they're not complaining. They're not upset. You as a security team that bought the thing. I'm guilty of this too, though. How many devices, how many pieces of kit that have I bought over the years at companies when I used to work on the buyer side that we put in with, we POC'd, we had a problem we identified, we POC'd, we bought with the best intentions of getting it in-house. And then like, priorities shift. There's that prioritization again. Priorities shifted. Somebody at the top said, "Oh no, that thing that's going to have to wait. We're doing this other thing," and you just never come back to it. And I'm willing to bet. I am willing to bet if you're listening to this podcast, you can point to at least 1 or 2 pieces of tech in your environment right now that you have neglected the hell out of because it's been sitting there for a year and nobody's looked at. It may actually be a liability, because it hasn't been updated. If it hasn't been updated, it's going to become a problem for you. And it's a horrendous waste of cash. And as organizations are struggling to keep their budget because, bad times, budgets don't continue to grow, you could be doing something else with that money. So if you're on the buyer side, like, are you looking at the totality? I know it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to give up something that we've bought because it's like admitting defeat, but I think we got to be serious with ourselves.
Yeah, you have to. I think, and as a security leader, you have to. Like at minimum of 1 year when I was the CISO, like every year when budget came around, I would take a hard look at everything, even when it was more CapEx versus OpEx based, right? Mm-hmm. Even when you have that investment, like I would still take a look at it. You got to be honest with yourself. If this is shelfware, we're not getting usage out of it. Like I booted email security providers back in the day because I felt like Microsoft could do it better. Like booted CASB because what is CASB? Like things like that. Like I've done plenty of times. You got to be honest with yourself. And that's why I think if security leaders are honest with themselves and then the security vendors continue to treat customers like they're customers throughout the entire contract, I think everything will be better.
I think that's a good place to end it, man.
Love it. I thought we were going to talk hockey. It's just really cool that we got to talk some cyber too. So
yeah, always a good time. Always a good time. Hey, folks, thanks for listening along. I do think that if you're listening to this and you're kind of honest with yourself, you will find kit that you've bought that's been sitting there that hasn't done anything. Hey, Tim, since I know you're a fan, who's winning the World Cup?
I have to go for USA. But Argentina's looking pretty dominant, I have to say.
All I have to say is Messi, like the magician, holds the single.
Messi just missed a penalty shot about but 30 minutes ago.
12 minutes later, buried another one in the corner of the net. So
that's right.
These single greatest. I think how like some sports you can have debates of like who's better. Like the LeBron James and Michael Jordan, that has been a settled debate since day one. It's not even close. Michael Jordan could kick LeBron James' ass today. And this is like the Messi thing. Like there's nobody. Like I'm from Poland, right? So Robert Lewandowski is an amazing striker, but you put him next to Messi, you're like, no.
No. You don't know what he's going to do. He's explosive. He just kind of lags right until he's not, and then he's just like, bam.
And that's the amazing thing is, and I know if you're in for the cyber, like give us 2 more seconds here, but like this is one of those situations where he's like jogging, like barely jogging along, and like the guy, his partner will be like, oh, I know where he's gonna go. He puts a ball in an empty space, and before the defender has any idea what just happened, Messi's buried it. You're like, how? What happened? How did I not see this?
How did he get it top corner?
Yeah, and it's always like these amazing, the curling, those curling over the wall from the top of the box shots are just like how I would understand. I'd love to understand the physics behind
the physics of it.
All goes up,
the spin or something.
Down. It's insane. Anyway, all right, that's your prediction. I think Argentina is going to take it away. I think Spain looks like crap. I think Germany needs a better. Nobody wants to see the French win again. And Morocco looked good, but man, I want to see Argentina go back to back. It hasn't happened since the 1920s, 30s when Italy did it. And the only thing Italy's doing lately back to back is not making the World Cup. Zing! And on that note, as I'm about to get some hate mail, and on that note, kids, all right, I'm going to exit. Hey, Tim, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, and you guys heard it first, World Cup predictions. If you listen to this and it's Tuesday, I want to hear what you think because we're not in knockout stages yet. So let me hear it. Post it up. We'll see you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.
This is Bella. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave my dad a review and share this with your friends. Bye.